Now it's time for our next SCI Idealist presentation. To make the introduction, I'd like to call upon Paul Francisco, Chief Diversity Officer and Head of Workforce Development Programs at State Street Corporation.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, David and SCI, for giving me the opportunity to introduce one of my best friends in the world. I am thrilled for her. But first, I wanted to also congratulate two really good friends as well, in James and Juan Fernando. Congratulations, well deserved. This is an amazing group. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about Dr. Makeeba McCreary, the person. The professional, I think many of us know, but the person is really who I'm a big fan of. Makeeba is probably one of the most loyal, dedicated people that I know, humble, and likes to do her work behind the scenes. A lot of people don't understand or realize the impact that Makeeba has had in so many lives, and I can say thousands of lives very comfortably. From her days as the head of strategy for the Michael Jordan Foundation and all the grant making efforts in communities like Washington, D.C. and North Carolina and Oregon, Connecticut. Makeeba impacted many, many thousands of lives of young Black and brown kids in public schools. She did that as a chief of staff with BPS. She did that at the MFA. And all those things come from who she is. She is a community kid, grew up in the South End of Boston, went to school here for high school, and then moved on to the big city in New York. She's been an avid art collector, a hip hop head, a motorcycle riding diva, which a lot of people don't know. And for me and my family, she's been a best friend, an auntie, a sister to me and my wife, Betty, a great travel partner. We traveled the world together. I'd never forget our vacation to Cuba, Paris, London, Portugal, so many different places, and hopefully many, many more places to go. And Makeeba, I can't think of anyone more deserving of this award than you. You've dedicated your life to build an equity and inclusion. And the work that you're doing now with NCF is just so critical. And having you be directly engaged and involved with efforts around building equity, not only in terms of economic access, but health equity, as Juan mentioned, and so many other things that you're doing. You're incredible. You're a fashionista, which a lot of people also don't know. And an avid art collector ever since even before your days at the MFA. But what makes you special, again, is your loyalty. It's your dedication to community. It's your dedication to your team, right? And anyone who's worked with you and for you can attest to that. And I see many of them here in this call. So I just want to congratulate you. It is my just complete honor to call you a friend. And I'll never forget that you made me cry last year. So I'll never forgive you for that. But I'm so thrilled for you, and congratulations on this award.
Thank you, Paul. It's okay, you got me back, Juan. It's unfortunate this is virtual because you'd be passing me the tissue box. Thank you so much, Paul, and to you and Juan and James. I cannot imagine being honored with two less fabulous individuals, but also quite serious individuals about the work that we have to do. I'm going to open with a poem by Amanda Gorman. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the lives that were lost in Buffalo. This is titled Surviving. These words not be for red, for our blood to run through them. When tragedy threatens to end us, we are flooded by what is felt. Our faces fluctuating, warped like an acre passing seasons. Perhaps the years are plotted and planned. Just like seeds in a fresh plowed field, when we dream, we act only with instinct. We might not be fully sure of all that we are, and yet we have endured all that we were. Even now, we're shuddering, the revelation aching. It didn't have to be this way. In fact, it did not have to be. The gone are no threshold, no stepstone beneath our feet. Even as they did not die for us, we shall move for them. We shall only learn when to let this loss, like us, sing on and on. Thank you. There's such a deep connection to the work that I'm privileged to be doing with the new Commonwealth Racial Equity and Social Justice Fund. And I tell this story a lot. I won't repeat it here because many of you have heard it, but I will say that I do remember that moment when Paul and 18 other warriors in this city of Boston, Black and Brown, stepped forward and said that they were unequivocally not going to be patient any longer. I remember thinking, I want to be a part of that. I'm going to help in any way I possibly can. And here I am with this incredible honor. It's a bit cheesy, but I think of every day as we're building this fund, and I get frustrated or befuddled or try to figure out what comes next. I recall those 19 individuals, and I think of them as the wind beneath my wings, quite literally. And so for those of you who don't know as much about our fund, it is only about 2 years old, and these incredible founders raised $30 million towards a $100 million goal. We're now close to 40, and we are focused on interrupting and dismantling systemic racism across a varying range of different areas, all of which should be incredibly familiar to you, because you're all also doing work in these spaces of policing and criminal justice reform, health equity, economic empowerment, youth development, and identity and culture narrative. It's important to be critical, I think. And so this story today for me is about talking about truths, right? Like, we have to acknowledge that something quite horrific has just taken place not days ago, but we also have to find the reasons to keep moving forward and to be hopeful. But we can't skip that truth-telling part, right? And so I want to share some words from this incredible brother, Edgar Villanueva, who wrote a book called Decolonizing Wealth. Bear with me, it's not too long, it's a little bit sassy, but it will take me a moment. Philanthropy moves at a glacial pace. Epidemics and storms hit, communities go underwater literally and metaphorically. Black and brown children get shot dead or lose their youth inside jail cells. Families are separated across continents, women are abused and beaten and raped. All of Rome burns while we fiddle with another survey on strategies, another study on impact. Other sectors feel the heat of competition, not us. We politely nod at the innovations of the business sector. It takes us half a century to implement one of them. We indulge those who say that diversity is important by conducting several decades of analysis, hiring consulting groups with absurd price tags. We publish reports, we create a task force and debate mightily over what to call it. We do not actually change, not more than superficially. This is philanthropy. We are the family that embarrasses me and infuriates me, but it is still my family, my relations, and I believe in redemption. It's from the place of calling this family to a better self that I write, philanthropy, honey, it's time for an intervention. And I want to propose that not just New Commonwealth Fund is the intervention to decolonizing philanthropy, but also all of my colleagues who have been working on this forever. Like, we can't pretend that we're just starting all over again each time we show up on the scene. And so I have solutions. And I didn't create the solutions. I'm borrowing some solutions from Adrienne Marie Brown, Emergent Strategies. And she says we should ask ourselves these questions. What are your gifts? If you are assessing for creating more possibility, are you living a life that honors all of your gifts? If yes, how did you create all of this possibility for yourself? And if no, how can you create more possibility today, tomorrow, this month, this year? I'm going to close, and you can see that there's a theme here, which is really, it started with about a week and a half ago. I had the pleasure of being at an event at the Museum of Fine Arts Boston celebrating Black arts and artists. And Portia Yewola, who is a poet laureate for the city of Boston, she gave a poem in response to a poem that's on the wall at the museum in a collection that talks about what kind of president this artist wants. And this is Portia's response to that, which is, and so I think perhaps if I cannot rely on a president, perhaps I can rely on a poem to change and lead us, to make swift our hearts, to make the immovable a free fall. And so maybe what I want is a poem for president. I want a poem for a flag. I want a poem for my mother pedaling each sidewalk. So I will walk remembering. Instead of the law, hand me literature, hand me a bill that is an ode to this body, this life lived. For every TV ad, give me a portrait poem, a love epistle to a partner, gone or still here. It can be about a field, about the color purple. It can be about an ocean I keep having to cross, a poem about the best meal you've ever had. I know it will end hunger sooner than any man can. I don't want a president. Instead, I want a poem, a prayer, a whistle of this boiling heart, a sweet song to whisk us all into revolution. So thank you, SCI, for inviting this platform for us to hold space to talk about truth and reality, but also to be hopeful and to move with urgency. And Paul, I love you and thank you so much for your words. We are a family.
Thank you so much, Makeeba, and congratulations on your award. And thank you so much for the poetry that you shared with us. So meaningful and powerful, and never more so than in this moment. One more thank you to our gold level sponsors, Beth Israel Lahey Health, Cummings Properties, Eastern Bank, Liberty Mutual Insurance, and Point 32 Health Foundation. Thank you all for your support of SCI and for supporting our amazing honorees, Juan, Makeeba, and James.